Yeah, yeah. Well, you were there Saturday night, right?
Somebody marked you.
Yeah, yeah. So, no, first of being having fair skin. Daughter enjoyed the girls fighting.
All right, so we'll get started. It's 6:30. Make a motion to open the Finance Committee for December 19th at 6:30.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Present are Councilor Lopez, Councilor Leahy, Councilor Bacon, Councilor Bartley, Councilor McGee. Councilor Tallman did call and said he's going to be a little late. He's swamped with packages today, so that was his savings. I'm swamped. I did get a text from the mayor. He is sick, so he will not be here tonight. You can leave the door open if you want, if whatever heat might come on at some point. With that, I'll make a motion to go out of order because there was a request due to a time constraint.
Second.
Take item number 5
Second.
out of order. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Order that the sum of $2 million be appropriated to pay for the cost of design and installing the public radio network. So, anyone here for that? Of course. So move from the table. All in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? All right.
Good evening, councilors.
Good evening,
Good
Chief.
evening.
Just before we start, Chief Pond did call me. He had a conflict, so he sent Jeff. There's Jeff. So he said you knew it better, so you know we're in better hands. That was his statement. So and the reason he called is he said with something like this, he always wants to be here for something like this, and he didn't want to come off as rude or anything. And I said, don't worry, stuff happens, especially now this time of the season. So he sent us the best, and we'll go from there. So Chief did apologize for not being here. With that, I will turn it over to whoever wants to start. Tell us a little bit about this and what's going on.
Certainly. I'll get us started off. Thank you for having us here tonight. I think most of the city council understands that the police radio infrastructure is in dire need of upgrade. The system is crashing rather frequently, whether it be Saturday night, Sunday, and again today. We've had radio crashes over a dozen times this year. We've known this problem's been coming. It's an old system that's beyond its useful life. It's difficult to get parts that they don't make anymore to fix the issues that are going on. And what I'm proposing for tonight is to do a combined public safety radio network that would take care of the police department's issues, upgrade the fire department, and also take care of the Department of Public Works, their radio issues that are almost non-functioning. With that said, in addition to the auxiliary police too. With that said, I have brought in a couple experts to help explain this better than I can. Brian Elliott and Dominic Pellegrino from Municipal Grants and Planning. I've brought them in as a project manager to see if we get this project up off the ground and successfully implemented. And if that being said, I'd like to turn the mic over to them.
Okay, just make sure the button's on.
The green light?
Yeah.
It's on.
Okay.
Yes.
And state your name and where you're from, and that way it's in the
Certainly.
record.
My name is Brian Elliott, Municipal Grants and Planning Associates. I live in Wilbraham, Massachusetts, and I'm one of the partners in Municipal Grants and Planning. We were working with the chief on some other projects when the radio had crashed over a period of time now, and it's been going down more and more. The conversation picked up with frequency to the point where the chief was expressing his concern whether the radio was going to work on a day-to-day basis. With that, the chief asked us if we would come in and just give it a look and see how bad it is and what the scope of the project could be. Let me be clear up front, I'm not a radio expert, but what I am is an expert in planning, problem identification, and putting together a project from the program plan all the way through the financing. So with that, the chiefs asked if my partner and I could actually look at this and make sense of what's needed and where he could go from here. So with that, I know that the chief for several years now has been asking for money to try to address this, because knowing that at some point it will be critical failure beyond repair. Your radio system now that supports police emergency communications is 13 years old. Generally, the useful service life of police communication radios, the infrastructure, the hardware, and all that drives it, 10 years is usually the floor. Anything beyond that, you're starting to get into borrowed time. What you would like to do in a perfect world is start to put a percentage of your budget aside and begin planned obsolescence, swapping out some old parts for new parts. The technology is rapidly advancing. What you have now 13 years ago was cutting edge, now is old and basically useless. This summer it became an emergency of dire need, because the company that was providing the service to keep the radios up and running, they signed a contract with the city for 1 year's worth of service. 2 weeks into it, they realized that they couldn't support the contract that they just signed, and they wanted to renegotiate the contract and eliminate one of your sites, which is the Apremont site. They just said it's too costly, we cannot get parts. They would assure the chief and the city that they could show up, but they couldn't assure anyone that they could get the parts. And it got so bad that they started to search Google for old parts, bits and pieces that have been discarded from other police departments. You have a VHF analog system right now. Analog was cutting edge back in the day. The coverage that analog provides, you'd get bits and pieces as it would degrade, but you could hear something, somebody was trying to talk, and you may be able to cobble together. But what happened with the analog is that the digital age came in, and the penetration that the digital signal provides is second to none. It's not comparable to analog. Holyoke's rather unique in the way it's situated. You've got, the hills, and then you've got a compact downtown area which is densely, thickly settled. So you have penetration issues, you have coverage issues. It's not an easy fix. Can it be fixed? It absolutely can be fixed. The issue is, basically, we're running out of time. We wish it weren't an emergency, but it's becoming an emergency. The radio went down today. It went down 2 days ago. In May 28th of this year, so far it's gone down in excess of 16 times this year. May 28th is a date in particular that I would like to raise, just to point out that at 1 o'clock in the morning, the link from the police department to the bell tower right here went down. And it also knocked out the link from the police department to Mount Tom, which was the secondary route. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, the radios went completely down. Nobody was talking for almost an hour. And because it was 1 o'clock in the morning, thank God it was not 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But the company that was in position to support this It took them till 7:30 that night to get the radio back up and working properly. So you're now dealing with a system that is absolutely unreliable. There's nothing seamless about it. It's becoming very dangerous. It's becoming a huge liability to everybody. And that is why the chief asked us to come in and give this a look and see if we could put something together that would make sense. So with that, we went out into the market and we gave it a look, and we started talking to vendors and see what we could actually do and to try to value engineer something here given the time and the circumstance. We believe that we have identified a potential fix for you and for the city, and it would be combining police, fire, and then as a second or subsequent benefit, adding in DPW and your parks to really fix everything comprehensively for the first time. With that, the fire department had begun to upgrade some of their systems, and from what we can tell, you may benefit from that and be able to support some of the police communications with the equipment that you already own. So we started off looking at this as a police-only communications platform, but the numbers were just through the roof. They were just multiple millions of dollars, and it just wasn't going to be workable, and it was something that the chief didn't feel comfortable bringing solely on his own. So we sharpened our pencils. We put everyone in the room. We talked to Chief Pons. We talked to Mike McManus, and we believe we came up with a system that's going to provide, it's going to remediate all of the issues that the police department has. It's going to be able to take the fire department from an analog signal and digitize that signal. So it'll now be the same quality. Police and fire will have the same platform. And then for the first time ever, the DPW right now, just you probably know this, they have a base radio, and it throws it from their DPW station directly to the trucks, but it doesn't hit the trucks, so they end up on their cell phones all the time. So basically, they don't have any radio communication beyond the circumference close to their headquarters. And then the Parks Department also, there's some value engineering here that we can do is push some of these radios that we currently have down to them. And then having one vendor, you're eliminating multiple service contracts. So we tried to figure out a way to get in here quickly, remediate the emergency that the police department's having, enhance the communication system, the platform that the fire department has, provide critical communication for your DPW, and then also communications that are reliable for your Parks Department.
Okay, with that, Councilor Leahy, Councilor Lopez.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Brian and Dominic, for coming in here and just kind of revisiting our last meeting. I just wanted to follow up with you in regards to your son. Did you ever give his iPad back or his iPhone back?
He did get it back.
He did get back? All right.
But not right away.
It is the holiday season, so be kind to your son. So having said that, you know, I did meet with these gentlemen before. I also met with Chief Nayswinger, Chief Prescott, Jeff. Gave him a raise. I'm sure Chief Pons at home watching this thing. I skipped a meeting, what happens? And Sergeant Hart as well. So thank you guys for kind of filling me in on this. I spoke, I do have two brothers on the police department. This doesn't have any financial gain for my two brothers that are police officers here in Holyoke, so I can vote on this. And I did speak to another police officer some time ago, and he had said, kind of half jokingly, if anything ever happens to me, God forbid, it's going to be one of two things. One, it's going to be the vehicles. The vehicles, a lot of them are in deplorable shape. And the second thing is because of the radios. These radios are in deplorable shape. One of the great things I heard about in the meeting that I had with these two gentlemen here was they had a test. They had either a firefighter or a police officer, I'm not sure, go up to the Holyoke Mall in the Delaney House, and they could hear each other perfectly. You know, that's just fantastic to hear. One of the things I wanted to ask you guys about is the technology. So you're going to use the Parks Department, the Department of Public Works, the Fire Department, and the Police Department. They're all going to have access to these these lines.
Yes, sir, and your auxiliaries as well.
And the auxiliary police officers as well.
So it's actually 5 different areas of local government that are going to benefit from this package.
And how is the funding going to happen through this? So I know that you're here in front of the Finance Subcommittee tonight. So this is going to go into a greater, bigger thing, a bond.
Yes, we're requesting a bond in the amount of $2 million.
Yep. So the $2 million is probably going to go to like a bond authorization note for some
That's correct. So given the circumstance it's actually day to day and hour to hour. I mean, again, they were up here today connecting the system back together again because it failed. The way it would work or could work is that we put this proposal together, we get the assurance of funding through the bond, and get this done before June 30th. Fiscal year 18, you can, through a ban, address the bond, the $2 million.
Okay, so just do me a favor and walk me through the $2 million. What I would be voting on essentially is so the $2 million. How much of that would be actually physical equipment?
We have that right here. Just bear with me just a minute. You have that. So the entire package for 5 years would be 1.850 estimated.
Okay, so what does 5 years mean? Is that a lease or is that ownership?
That would be, you would own it. There's no lease involved. So you would own it in 10 years if you did the 10-year bond.
Okay.
The reason why we would recommend 5 years is that you would have full coverage, warranty, everything, service contracts. There would be no piecemealing this together. You would be fully covered, police, fire, DPW, parks, and your auxiliary officers for 5 years. So any radio breaks, whether it's a portable radio, a mobile radio, anything goes down in this tower here, the Soldiers Home, People's Bank, it would be covered.
Okay, so the price that we're bonding for is actual hard $2 million. This over 5 years is 1.85. So I'm guesstimating that your commission is going to be $150,000.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, it's up to 1.5% of the $1.7 million.
I'm sorry, say again?
It would be 1.5%.
Okay.
Industry standards 4%.
Okay.
Because we are working with the chief on other projects, we dropped it to 1.5%, and it turned out to be $24,740.
Okay. So then why after 5 years it would not be the $2 million, it would be 1.850?
Well, the $2 million represents a 10% contingency for this project. Every project needs a contingency just in case. When all of this is procured and installed, the testing has to begin. So this proposal eliminates the Apremont site. So if there were an issue where we found that there were no coverage available in that area, we would have to go back. What we don't want to do is have to come back here twice and say that we missed something or there was an oversight of any kind. So we feel very confident that the $2 million would more than cover the need of all of these 5 different units of government.
Okay, and would included in this would be professional development, people coming to the actual fire department, police department, DPW, to show exactly how these systems are.
Absolutely, and it will be done individually per department. It wouldn't be in a wholesale fashion. The nomenclature, how it all works, how they can support it, because they're going to have their in-house points of contact that will still be necessary. But yes, all of the training, all of the support, the installation, everything happens here in the city. You don't have to send out your vehicles to an out-of-town vendor. Everything happens here.
One of my last questions, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who have a lot of questions, is I know we had spoke about this. I saw or read Springfield had received a whole new radio system as well. And for my belief, from what I read in the papers, they got either grants or they got some sort of funding, they got some sort of help. Is there any sort of funding or help that we can get?
Well, much of that was leftover tornado money. They got FEMA money, and it was given to the city over a period of time.
So if that the tornado, I
well,
wish
right,
it never
I mean,
did
I
happen,
wish
it
a
didn't
tornado
happen, they would have got that money?
But without emergency disaster remediation funding, there are no known sources to fund this in terms of grants. I believe there was some casino remediation funding as well. The city received some money, and they had to look at their infrastructure systems, and so they started to upgrade in anticipation of.
I think you two gentlemen said there's no more Homeland Security funds. That's been exhausted.
Right, the Assistance to Firefighter Grant, we were the last community in the country to receive funding for communication equipment. And that communication equipment is up right now, and it's going to benefit all these departments going forward.
We haven't reached out to the parade committee, but we might be doing that.
Got to worry about other things. All right, thank you.
Councilor Lopez?
Can you do me a favor and go over how the communication will be happening within the department? If the police department will have their own channel, how that will work? I just want to understand how.
Well, I have some maps here which may help you.
Please.
Currently, this is what you see in front of you here.
Maybe he just grabbed the mic.
Yeah.
It's probably a pain to hold it, but.
Well, that mic might be on.
Oh,
Yeah, that one.
you're right there.
So this map that you have in front of you here represents what it would look like if you were an officer and you had a portable radio on your hip. These green areas here, the radio would work rather well. These yellow areas here, the radio would work not 100% reliable. In the areas of red, you would have no coverage. You would not be able to speak. Now, just for a point of clarification, just so you would understand, you have to base your projection maps on your lowest common denominator. So the officers get out of the car, they go into a house, they go into a building. This is what it would look like if they're standing in the street. This yellow areas here represents their ability to talk to dispatch if they were in a building. They can't talk anywhere here where it's red, and this here is the Holyoke Mall for point of reference.
Can't talk.
Oh,
Can't talk. Well, red you're dead that's one of the industry terms. But that's inside the Holyoke Mall. Now, that's not every corner of the mall, but the deeper you go into the mall, the less you have the ability to communicate based on your hand unit. The hand unit puts out 5 watts. The vehicle puts out 25. Obviously, the math is much different, but you're often away from the vehicle, particularly when you're in a building. Now, that's on channel 1. So that's receiving the call for the dispatch, acknowledging and getting updates relative to your emergency response. Channel 2, this is what it looks like here. This is standing in the street, this is going into a building, and this is all the areas that you cannot speak to your records division on channel 2. Now, why would that be important? Once the officer gets to the call, immediately he or she has to know who they're dealing with. You know, who am I talking to? Do they have warrants? Are they wanted for anything? Domestic situations, is there an emergency order in place? Does he or she have any firearms? What do I need to know with the person I'm dealing with? So it precipitously drops off from the initial dispatch to getting extra information. So what you're looking at here is often a cell phone call back to records if your radio is not contacting your records division. Chief. The proposed plan is a digital simulcast. Now, a simulcast is an important term because the difference between repeating it and simulcasting it, it goes out everywhere in the city. And the strongest, through a voting system, the strongest receive site picks up that signal. You're talking 90 to 95% coverage as opposed to 40 to 50% coverage. It's markedly different. This is now on your portable. This is on a portable. There's certain areas here that you're just not going to get 100%, and there isn't a radio system in this country that's 100% reliable. There's just not. Or cell phone. They're subject to, the wind, the rain, the snow, heavy leaves in the summertime. It's just how it works. This is what channel 2 would look like. Now there's a potential to move one of the antennas around and get onto the antenna with Holyoke Gas and Electric. So we're showing you the worst case scenario for channel 2 on a digital simulcast without the Holyoke Gas and Electric Mount Tom.
Stay in page with you guys? Is Jimmy Lavelle on page with you?
Yes, we've been in contact with them. We have the assurance, but until we have that yes, we can't show you that. We have to show you the worst. But it improves significantly on Channel 2 as well. But Channel 1, you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And that's 50% better than what you have right now. And that's around the 90 to 95 percentile coverage. So that's it for the...
And my last, it's not a question, it's just, I just want to double check. You mentioned that we should have this system running before June of next year?
And here's why. It went down again today.
Yeah.
On the way up here, there was an evacuation for a gas leak right behind the police station, and everyone's piling in the police station. They just got their radios back on again. You've got to have the police talking to each other.
No, absolutely, I agree.
From the 911 call in to the initial dispatch to the officer in the street, and then that immediate communication back to dispatch. What do we got? How many people we need? What's happening as things are rolling out?
Is it possible to get it done before that or sooner, or that will be completely out of the question?
It is. It is.
Okay.
This is why we're here now. We were brought in on an emergency basis to try to make sense of what's going on here. I know the chief has tried to go it alone for several years and raise this as an issue, but it's getting worse and worse. And when it became most critical is when the service provider pulled out of it and said that they don't want to support one whole site. We realized that how bad it really was, and now we want to make you aware of how bad it is.
Thank you.
Linda and Dave.
So my question is on the Apremont site and that it would be eliminated.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that because with the upgraded technology you wouldn't need the separate site?
Right. What we tried to do is stay away from any new construction, adding sites. It's very costly to do that. Secondly, with the increase in signal quality on the digital side, based on all the computer models, because we haven't gone out there and put all this equipment out there yet, but based on the initial testing and the computer generated coverage maps, we believe that you can actually eliminate the worst site that you have and increase your coverage to what you're seeing right here.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Dave? Oh,
a few months ago, we had the ability to go out and test some portable radios on our digital side. We were able to flip our repeaters to the digital signal. And Sergeant Hart and myself went out and tested, went into all the problem areas, went out to West Holyoke, went to the Holyoke Mall, went to Dean Tech, went to all these problem areas where there's no coverage, and the signal was perfect. It was 100% coverage, and it's 100% better than what they have right now. So I just wanted to let you know that.
You could have done that with the other ones?
Thank you.
No, the old system you would have been able to get out of the Holyoke Mall.
So I've been talking a lot about the police department. So why fire? They have an analog signal right now, so similar to what the police have, and they have coverage and quality issues. They can't get to the digital platform because they don't have the mobile radios and the portable radios that the firemen carry into the fire. Those don't support digital signals. So they need to purchase the radios that go in the trucks and the hand units that the firemen will carry with them. Once they have digital capable mobile units and portable units, they have the ability then to switch over to the digital signal. So you're going to digitize your police and your fire and your DPW, your parks, and then for probably the first time ever, you're going to be able to talk to all the officers that come in over St. Patrick's Day weekend that support you. You're going to have communications to them for the first time, which is going to significantly improve the quality of response and the safety of all.
But we would need all new radios for everybody to be able to communicate on the digital system, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Counselor, just so you know, the last 30 portables I bought, I bought a dual analog digital, so those will become spares. When I have outside auxiliaries in the city, I can feed them that so they can address some of those issues, anticipating we were going to go down this road at some point.
Right.
You've been talking about it for a long time.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure.
Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Elliott, the length of time you said useful life is 10 years. Did I hear that right?
That's the industry standard. It's about 10 years for the physical equipment to operate with little or no failure.
And what's the useful life of this particular package that you're proposing?
We propose that the equipment and technology would be at least 10 years for service life. The issue becomes, sir, that the technology is advancing at such a rate, and I'll use iPhone as an example. They came out with the iPhone 7. Within 6 months, they had iPhone Plus. So every 6 months, it's changing. And in 10 years, I fully believe that the mobile radios and the portable radios will still be in service. But it's the technology that drives it will have gone light years beyond what you have in your hand. So we're recommending the bond go out to 10 years in anticipation that the technology will outpace the quality or the life of the unit itself. It'll still work.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about that in a second. But the warranty lasts for how long, sir?
We propose that the package that the city purchases is a 5-year all-in for service, and the warranty breaks down 2 ways, just for point of clarification. You have the actual physical item and the labor it would cost to fix the radios or whatever, and then you have the service component, which means climbing up in the tower here, going to the physical locations and servicing them to make sure that they stay operational as well.
But your professional opinion isn't to have a longer warranty, and why would that be?
So that you don't have to address this for years to come. I would recommend that you also pay attention to what we call planned obsolescence. You do not want to be in a situation in 10 years where you got to come up with $3 or $4 million.
Well, I'm going to ask the chief about that in a minute, but
yes, sir.
But
so,
but be that as it may, that's not your decision about planned obsolescence. You're here the professional. I'm asking you the question. So you're saying it's a 10-year useful life, but you're saying you recommend only a 5-year warranty. Is there a cost component that's prohibitive to go a longer warranty, or are you saying that the equipment should be new equipment should be purchased every 5 years? I mean, I'm just asking.
Well, at some point it becomes a cost issue. You want to start to buy equipment and start what it's called planned obsolescence. You start swapping these things out 2 and 3 at a time, 4 at a time, so you don't wind up in a situation where you're buying 200 radios to support your police, fire, DPW. I don't want to ever see you guys have to deal with this in such a wholesale fashion again. So that's why we're saying the 5-year warranty, which is going to give you the assurance that you don't have to reach in your pocket and pay for anything for years to come. You can plan, you can catch your breath and plan for this in the future.
So perhaps as part of your services, you would maybe advise the police and fire departments and DPW on how to properly plan for this, and the mayor's office, I would think?
Yes, sir. Yes, part of what we're doing is looking down the road. How do you avoid this situation so that you're not in what I would say a real difficult position to make these tough decisions? Okay. We don't want to see that happen again.
If I can weigh in for a moment here, I think the plan is, the reality is in years 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, we're going to have to invest money in the infrastructure to keep the system we have running. So you would have to buy you have to buy X number of new portables or mobile units as you move along to keep the length along.
I think I'm hearing that, Chief. Yeah, I think I'm hearing that. I'll ask you a question in a second. So, Mr. Elliott, first of all, I don't know who you are. I'm sure you're, but are you going to email the city councilors with your about your
certainly
organization?
Yes, sir. So, if that's what you wish, certainly I can do that. Yes.
Well, why don't we at least figure out who you are and what you're about? That'd be helpful. Mr. Pellegrino, I don't mean to exclude you, but Mr. Elliott's doing all the talking here. The timing of our vote. So you're asking us to. This is the first time hearing this right now. So, other than when the order is filed. So you want us to vote on this tomorrow night? Is that what this is? If this comes out of committee tonight, that's how the process goes. So So then we would, or maybe it's a better question for the chief. Chief, is this what you're hopeful that we'll do? Is that this will go out of committee tonight and we'll vote on it tomorrow, or are you anticipating that the committee tables this tonight, you provide additional information?
No, quite honestly, I'm hoping this will get voted on tomorrow night. We're in such dire need.
Oh, okay, I just want to clarify that. And Mr. Elliott, how do we, I mean, I just love bonds when they come in exactly to the penny. I love it. So $2 million on the button. Is that the number for this? Is it exactly $2 million, or is it 1.85 million? And
that $2 million includes a contingency, and the reason for that contingency is that we will all truly know how well this system works once it's all installed, and we can actually put them into the street, have the officers start to use it, and to ensure that the coverage is there. We do not want to come back here again and ask for additional $300,000-$400,000 because there was a miss somewhere.
What's the built-in contingency so the council knows?
It's approximately 8 to 9%, depending on.
Thank you. 1 second. And Mr. Chair, just a question for you. Are we going to hear from the treasurer on our bonding capacity for the city? Are we going to hear from her tonight? Oh, I know she's there. I know that. But has she come prepared to talk about what we can?
That email was sent out by Bellamy probably a month ago when we first started the $21 million bonding as to our capacity for bonding purposes. He sent out an email that was supposed to go out to everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Chief, so what I'm hearing is, it's an emergency. So we obviously, we take public safety very seriously, and Sergeant, you know that, and Jeff, I know you since we were kids, so we take it very seriously, and we're just asking the questions, okay? So don't get offended. But 10-year useful life, and now we're in year 13, and now we got a major problem on our hands. It sounds like. Why don't you tell us exactly how you've been working with the mayor on since you've been chief for 5 years. What have we been doing to plan for this in the last 5 years?
Well, Council, if you'll notice, the last couple of years in the capital improvement budget, I've been requesting money specifically for this task that hasn't been funded. I'm trying to bring to you tonight a project that is workable and doable and financially responsible.
So it hasn't been funded by?
You know our capital improvement budget. It's more like a capital improvement wish list.
So you make I just want to get the process. You propose the budget to the mayor.
Last couple of years in the capital improvement budget, I've been asking specifically money for this particular issue.
To the mayor?
Yes, and I think to the city auditor. I have to do a capital improvement budget worksheet. Every year we do one.
Okay. Have we had a capital budget put before us, this body, at all? Have we? Because this is the first time I'm hearing this, so maybe I missed it.
I can't speak for it. All I can tell you is what I've put forward.
Well, I think it's almost a rhetorical question. I don't think we have had a capital budget put before us. I guess that's my point, Chief. So, but I'm glad to know, at least I know, because you said it right here on record, that you brought this before the mayor the last several years, is what it sounds like to me.
Yes, and I think I've had conversations, maybe not with you directly, but indirectly with other city councils for the past years. We've known this has been a radio issue, has been a challenge. The fix for this could be actually much higher than the number that we're proposing tonight, that we've looked at, because I did have a radio vendor come in, and the number was very expensive. And that was just to fix the police department.
And if I may add, we have been piecemealing. We've been before council before with grants, and the purposes for some of those grants were to piecemeal our infrastructure and radios. So we have been doing that. And the reason for the exigency for the system is we're going day to day. We don't know when it's going to completely fail. And it's going to take, as Mr. Elliott said, approximately 6 months for this to be up and running. So the longer we wait, the more chances we take to getting a complete blackout. That's the reason for the exigency here.
Well, I mean, based on what you're saying, it's pretty clear we have to get this done right away. We can't, first of all, put the public in peril, and just as importantly, we can't put our brave police and fire in peril because of a technical glitch. So that's, I mean, I don't want me to simplify, Chief. I'm just a little bit, this is literally the first time I've heard this. So, one more question, Mr. Elliott. You did say that there's no known source to fund in terms of grants. So you're saying that because, how do you know that?
Because I've been researching and writing grants for almost 10 years on a municipal level. The issue becomes, when you look at federal funders, that they expect that local municipalities invest in their own systems. Typically now, and I'm sure the deputy and the chief can also chime in here on this, they want to see task force, they want to see multiple agencies, cross-agency communications into multiple municipalities. So if you were proposing a system that would include your surrounding towns, they would consider maybe the project. But there's no known funding source right now that says that they've put out money to support any type of project on a local level like this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Linda, then Joe.
Thank you. This is really a comment more than anything. I'm actually very warm to this project, but the thing that is very surprising to me is that we've been talking now for, what, a couple of months about a $21 million bond that apparently doesn't have communications for the police department, the fire department, and DPW in it. So, and I know you've been talking about this because I've been on one or another committee where it has come up for at least 2 years. So I find it stunning that it's not in the $21 million bond that we have been talking about, you know?
Counselor, it's not an exact number, but I think there was a number in there of like 1.5 for
Is
radio,
there?
for radios.
Because I was asking the chairman to look
Yeah,
for
I
it,
think
he
there's a
couldn't
number that-
find it, and I can't read it from here.
There is, Linda.
Is there some money in there for that?
1.5.
Oh, all right. All right. Well, thank you, because I'm sitting here thinking there's something wrong with this picture. And I do think it makes it easier for us to talk about it tonight with at least some of it being in here, you know, for earlier consideration. So thank you for clarifying that. Oh, all right, all right. We were trying to check it, but we couldn't see it. But so there was 1.5 that was put through based on your earlier request through the mayor into that big bond ask.
And I could be wrong, but that may be just for police, that 1.5.
Okay. Thank you. Right. And, well, I guess Councilor Bartley isn't in the room, but I think that might help him out too, understanding that a big part of it was already under consideration earlier. So,
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, John, Jeff, thank you for being here. Questions to everybody. The $2 million, did that cover all costs, including the radios and equipment? You know, are there any hidden costs that we're not talking about this evening or may come because of this?
I believe this covers all infrastructure equipment, portable radios, mobile radios. We did build in a contingency just in case there was other equipment that we needed to purchase to get it to a good level of testing.
7 or 8%.
Right.
Any changes with dispatch in either department?
Part of the proposal does address dispatch and funding new consoles for both departments. Under this agreement, the two departments will share one server. So both departments will be able to communicate with one another. Both departments will be able to pick up and go to another facility if they need to and have seamless communication. So those have been addressed.
And if I may just add, we've also, in this proposal, currently we have 3 dispatcher stations in the police department. This proposal builds out a 4th for anticipation of future cooperation and collaboration between departments, be it the police and fire, and anticipating being able to do that down the road.
Any changes in personnel, additional personnel?
No, sir. None at all.
Okay. The proposal here, it sounds like a sound proposal that you've sunk your teeth into. Is it based on affordability, partly the best you can get, or is it based on what you believe is the best or what you need?
I'll jump in. Our little testing and evaluation done by Jeff and John in the, let's face it, the bad spots of the city, not just for radio coverage, for the men and women in whether it be in Dean Tech, whether it be in the basement of the mall, whether it be up at Delaney House, whether it be in some of the blocks in the city where our portables just really don't work. The coverage was night and day. It was like, oh my gosh, we need to get that. We need to get there. So that takes care of one piece of it. The second piece of it is the system's just crashing. That's it. It's done. I really don't know how much longer we have. And then the final piece is when you talk about affordability, sure, I would love, the Cadillac of projects out there. And I don't want to name radio vendors, but we did have a radio vendor take a look at this. That's a big name radio vendor. And just the police department alone, they came in at like 3.4 million. And that's without contingency funds. And I said, I can't bring that back to the city. It just was too big of a number.
So the answer is it's based on somewhat affordability, but you believe in the product.
Yes, sir.
I can add on to that a little bit, Joe, that the affordability aspect was an important aspect to this in bringing all these different departments together. The first time that I can think of where we're working collectively as a city in different agencies within the city for a common goal. There's some, I don't know if you can put a price tag on that, but it's important. Sergeant Hart and myself have gone out into the field. We've done extensive testing. I've gone out with some DPW supervisors, gone into their problem areas when they're out plowing and things like that. They're calling into their dispatch on cell phones right now. So this is a project that needs to happen. I think it's been done professionally and smart. Fiscally responsible is another word. And when it's all said and done, I think it's a project that we'll all be proud of. It brings interoperability to the city, which we haven't had in a long time, if we've ever had it, where different agencies will be able to talk to one another in emergency situations. I know you've been in the EOC during the parade and witnessed that interoperability, which was brought to us by the Mass State Police. We're going to have that same capability with this system. So for big events in the city, auxiliary departments coming in, Road Race Day, St. Patrick's Day Parade, this system's going to go a long way to let all these different agencies communicate with one another during emergencies.
Does that mean we're getting a helicopter?
I wish.
No, but this
we
will
have
talk,
a drone.
This will talk to it. This will talk to it.
That's just fine, Mr. Allen. I think talking to him is even more important. Let the state pay for it. For what it's worth, I think if the 4 of us went out on the playground, we'd get along great. I know we would. But times do change. But I thank you for your answers because I think you have worked together, and more important, you got a product that you're happy with. Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a quick question to the treasurer. Sure. Sandy or Bellamy, I think Sandy's the appropriate one. Sandy, typically when we bond, what I've always believed in is a 20-year bond is for something that's going to last 20 or more years and more than one generation ends up paying for it. We're hearing here this evening of a product that's going to last 10 years, more, but 10 years where it's going to need some work. What is the difference between a 10-year bond and a 20-year bond in terms of costs?
It really doesn't matter as far as, it would be a shortage payment plan, but working with the bond council, they usually give us the best deal. And right now we have talked to Cinder. I know Todd McGee has communicated with Cinder in regards to the bond for this, the bond for the pool. We initiated the bond for the 21 million that included everything that was given to the city council. And right now we're in a good spot to bond. So I think by taking this particular project and taking it off your 21.5 bond and start this procedure, we're in good shape as far as paying it back.
So the interest rates, you'd still get the best interest rate?
Right now our interest rates are low, so it would also be feasible for us to put it in action now than wait until later.
But we could do the 10 years or?
Yes,
okay.
We could. And then down the line, we could also refinance and include other bonds that are out there and make them one big bond that Mr. Lumber has done in the past.
Okay. Thank you, as always. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify something because I think it's important to know that the mayor had submitted this in the big bond proposal back in, I think it was September. I think it was $1.5 million. And Bellamy could probably help me with this. I believe that he separated this from the bond because it's of the nature. I mean, you guys need this faster than anything. And so this, I mean, I've known about, I don't want anybody at home thinking that this is something that just came on our table tonight or last week. I mean, we've known about this for some time. I mean, we have the numbers right there. It's 1.5 million. But he did separate this to expedite it. Am I correct on saying that, Bellamy? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Well, hold on. To Jeff, Chief, anyone, can you tell me the locations currently of the towers?
I got it. Mount Tom, the police department towers?
Yep. All the towers that we're going to be working with, that we're going to...
Or the proposed?
The proposed?
Proposal.
Okay.
Well, do it this way. Show us what you have and then what the proposal is going to do.
Okay. What I currently have is Mount Tom, Soldiers Home, the Bell Tower at City Hall, Appermont Highway, the mall, and HPD. That's the existing police. When we're done going over to where the fire is, it'll be Mount Tom, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, Holyoke Soldiers Home, the Bell Tower, People's Bank across the highway, and HPD.
And Holyoke Fire as well.
Holyoke Fire, what?
Yep. At Mount St. Vincent also.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So,
and the fire department's already gone out and gotten contracts with the facilities to have our equipment in there. So, and the contracts had the police written into them previously. So, the access agreements have already been written, and it's all good to go. So
hold on, David. What's that? So for Mount St. Vincent's, HPD, or fire department, and People's, you already have towers there. Mm-hmm. And yes. All you're doing is adding on the police.
Our backbone is set. Part of the benefit to this is that our backbone has capacity to take on these other departments, and there's some cost savings there. Instead of having the police department go out and build their own microwave system, they can latch onto ours, and we have the capacity within that to take on these agencies and see a cost savings. There's bandwidth within the system to accept all this.
Dave, did you have a question?
I do have a question, a comment.
Go ahead.
So when you say Mount Tom, Jeff, you mean Mount Tom, or do you mean Mount Tom Solar LLC out in Smiths Ferry?
Nope, it's the gas and electric tower on Mount Tom. It's the access road that goes up to WHYN.
Gotcha. Now, what about Mount Tom Solar? Because with that brand new one, no? Oh, why not?
We didn't even look at that.
Well, I mean, that's part of our deal. While we granted that permit, that the police, fire, whatever would have 150 something feet up the pole, so you would have
Right.
access to it. So why wouldn't you use that?
I think it's a cost issue right now where we believe that with the existing towers, we'll have the coverage that we need. But in the future, we may add down there. And we're thankful that you did add that language into that ordinance, because that's going to be helpful in the future.
That would amount to new construction, and there's no new construction proposed here. That would basically be costly and certainly delay this significantly.
What's the new construction? Just so I'm clear, does the new construction be what?
To put in communications capability where Mount Tom Solar.
It's building towers.
Yes, you got to bring in the
Okay, well,
antennas.
they're building the tower, but we
Right.
would add we have,
the permitting, everything that goes along with that. It would extend this project at least a year, if not longer. And we don't think you have a year.
well, that's fine, but just so long as there's,
We're well aware of that article in the ordinance.
yeah, and I just want to clear, one counselor can speak for himself, one counselor does not speak for me. So whether somebody knew or didn't know, I found out tonight. So I want that clearly stated. Well, whether or not an email was sent or not, I could have missed it, but that counselor does not speak for me, okay? I speak for myself. Thank you.
Apologize. Just going to apologize. I'm certainly not speaking for David Barley, but we did get that written down. It was 1.5. It was in the bond package, so.
Yeah, it's on the second page.
Second page, I saw it back in September.
All right, Linda?
I just want to go back to the earlier reference when you were talking about the project and mentioned HG&E, but it isn't part of the project, but you were indicating there's anticipated that there would be the collaboration.
We want to go higher up on their tower, and you've got to get permission to do all that.
From
And the higher we go,
them?
the better we're talking. Yes.
So
Yes, from G&E, they have it planned to go, I think it's another 600 feet higher, or 60 feet higher.
60 feet.
I was going to say.
On the existing tower, and we've been talking with them, and it looks like they'd give us the okay to go up a little higher if we need it.
So what we showed you is the worst case scenario without that agreement in place, because we can only project, and we have to tell you what you have now.
Okay, but when you're talking about the 60 feet, does it not currently exist
Correct.
anywhere?
Anywhere.
Okay.
But
So it's a pro forma
anything
for them
higher
too.
would significantly improve all those areas. So.
All right, next question I
Thank
had
you.
was, how many radios are we looking to get for all the 5 departments?
I have
Total,
that,
what we're
I have that
purchasing?
broken down for you.
Do you actually have a breakdown of the cost, everything? It seems you had some type of breakdown that you could show us, or?
But we have it, sure. We do have that. I can tell you, relative to the radios, for the police department, it would be 130 new portable radios. And it would be 40 new mobile radios. So that would be removing the radios that are currently in those vehicles and then replacing them with new equipment. On the fire side, it would be 35 mobile radios, remove and replace, and it would be 54 portable units. And along that, it would also take them from analog to digital, so all of these radios would be digital capable. For the DPW and parks combined, they would have 51 mobile units. So that's for all the trucks in the DPW and for the parks. And then they would have 20 portable units, handheld units. And then, as the chief said earlier, he has up to 30 combination units right now where they would do analog or digital. Those would become spare units that would be handed out for special events.
Okay, and then follow up on that, who is developing the plan as to bringing in new radios and everything else after the warranty starts to get to its end life?
Well, we look to the industry, the standards, and it's a percentage of your overall project for what they call planned obsolescence. So what you would really want to do in year 5 is start looking at year 6, putting money aside to start swapping out some of these units. These radios will be on the street for 5 years of car accidents, rainstorms, in and out of the car, dropping them on the ground. The equipment just gets used. I mean, that's all there is to it. It's emergency equipment. So we would propose that you would take a percentage of the overall and start swapping out.
And that percentage plan you will give to both chiefs to add into their budget for each and every year?
That would be our recommendation, yes. So that you
Not
don't.
looking for a recommendation. I want to see a plan. That's
Yes,
what
sir.
I'm asking
Yes.
for.
And the purpose of that is so that we don't have this big number ever again. That's the idea behind that.
And with that, because I did have a chance to speak with both chiefs, with regards to the equipment, I was under the impression grants could be applied for in order to help with that cost in the future.
Certainly, and I can speak about that. I pay close attention onto national issues, and with the new administration coming in, there's no way to project where they're going to put that national resource, and if they're going to put it in the Department of Justice, in the fire services, there's no way to know, and there's not enough time to wait to see how that plays out.
No, I just want to make sure that the information was correct. There are grants to help with the equipment that we could apply for.
Down the road.
Let's
Yes,
assume
sir.
down
Yes,
the road.
sir. There have been grants up till now, but it's really at the discretion of the president and where he chooses it. If there's a war, the money goes there. If there's not a war, the money comes back home.
I think another aspect also is, especially with FEMA grants, they will supply you money to purchase portable radios and mobile radios. They will not give you money anymore for infrastructure, for your backbone, okay? Your portable radios and your mobile radios need to be 15 years old or older for them to give you a grant. They just don't give you money to purchase new equipment for any reason. There needs to be a factor of the radios need to be older than the technology that's out there.
So how does that work for us then? If we approve a bond tomorrow and go out and buy all those radios at the total number, we have to wait 15 years to see if we're going to receive funds for that? Or
Well, if you're going to be doing grants.
Well, and I think what he's getting at is FEMA grants. We look at I look at every grant that's out there.
for it.
Right.
Yeah, the police have more opportunity than the fire service does.
Okay, that
we
makes sense.
look at the JAG burn grants. The last 30 radios I bought was specifically out of that grant.
Okay.
So, and we brought that before you last year or 2 years ago that you approved. And
The fire service is definitely limited in the amount of grants that are offered for equipment. But we do take advantage of what's ever out there.
All right, that's what I was looking for. All right, thank you.
If I could just add one thing, you were looking for numbers. I'm not sure if they touched on it, but that would also include 34 portables and 2 mobiles for the auxiliary police. 34 portables and 2 mobiles. No, the auxiliaries would have those.
Thank you. Councilor Bartley?
Just, well, first I'm warming up to all this, so just so you know. Mr. Elliott, just so I'm clear, all these purchases in a bond, you're making estimates, but I'm just guessing these are subject to public procurement laws, right? I mean,
Well, they could be. However, we recommend that you take them off the state bid list. All of these equipment items that we're recommending are already on the state list. It eliminates the need to go out to RFP. You can move fast, and this is where time is on your side when you go off the state bid list. Every piece of equipment item that we're recommending is on that. We've identified it by number. It's all there and ready to go. Going out to an RFP would be extremely expensive because you'd have to hire somebody to come and write the actual RFP, put it out there. There's a time aspect of it. It just extends the project another 6 to 8 months when it's all said and done. And that, those costs don't go toward anything that we've discussed tonight. That's in addition to.
Why do we have to hire somebody when we have a
To write
purchasing
the
director?
RFP. It's highly technical.
Okay, so your recommendation would be to the city that it would be
Go off the state bid list.
cost prohibitive to do otherwise.
I think it's, well,
And you can show that to us in writing somehow? Or you're just saying that?
no, it's an additional expense beyond what we've discussed tonight. If you wish to go that route, it extends the time frame.
No, I wish to do it as quickly as possible,
Yeah, right.
and as cost effectively as possible. That's what I wish to do.
Which is why we're proposing what we have in front of you tonight. This is the most cost effective. I've never seen units of government come together as they've come together tonight to value engineer a proposal that addresses all of the needs of the police department. It digitizes the signal for the fire department, which they can't get to. They can see it, but they can't get there because their radios won't work. It puts communications for the first time in all of your DPW vehicles, which is, it's essential. In these big snowstorms, the police, the fire, and the DPW all team up as one when they have to. And certainly for St. Patrick's Day, I'm up here every year. And I'll tell you, I've marched down High Street when there's 500,000 people here, and I see it 6 and 8 people deep, and the communications are essential. And I walk by officers from other towns, small towns, and they have nothing other than the equipment they brought with them, and they're not compatible with your systems. So they got to get on a phone and start dialing. So you're going to address so many different things that are critical need here, all in one opportunity here.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Let's say before May, we just want to get an update, the whole group, just to see where we are.
Oh, absolutely.
Or even before, we will follow an order for April and see where we are.
This is very important, and,
Oh, it
and
is. It's a lot
we're
of
here
money.
through the end.
Counselor, my hope, and maybe my Christmas wish, is that the full city council would support this tomorrow night. We could get moving on the project right away. There's about a 6-month build out. We'd be happy to come back in the spring and give you an update where we stand, what's working, what's not.
Maybe a demonstration too.
Yeah, yeah.
What's up?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion. Well, do you want to make it? Make a motion has been complied with?
No, don't we have to?
Or adopted?
Oh, adopt, yeah.
Make a motion to adopt it?
All right, any other questions? None. The motion is to adopt. It was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed. Now I'll go on tomorrow's agenda for the full city council. to
Thank
take
you,
up.
everyone.
Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep.
See now the police are still here. Take item number 6 out of order.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Make a motion removed from the table. All's in favor? All opposed? I order that $240,000 be taken from stabilization fund to pay for capital outlay police cars. Chief, here we go again.
Good evening, councilors. Thank you for having me.
Go.
So what's proposed is $240,000 to purchase 6 police cars. We're in desperate need of cruisers. As Councilor Bartley pointed out, the capital improvement budget, I think in the past, has not been, or request has not been shown to the City Council. Every year that I fill out the capital improvement request budget, every year I ask for cars. The police department used to get 6 cars every 12 to 18 months, and that kept our cycle moving fairly well, our fleet running. But we're no longer on that replacement cycle. The last time we actually physically got cars was spring of 2015. We've had a number of discussions about getting 3 replacement cars every 12 months, but we're not even on that replacement cycle. And if you approve tonight, or recommend that the full city council do approve, we're still looking at probably 6 months before these cars actually hit the road. I have only 4 regular marked units that have less than 100,000 miles. one of my regular cars, regular patrol, regular mark units, has 163,000 miles on it. And of course, our annual operating costs are moving up because all our vehicles are such high maintenance.
Bellamy, since you're here, the 119 from that side account is going to go into the general fund next year. The one where they try to get the 3 cars. I forgot the name of the little auction money. There it is. I thought it was said that it wasn't staying in that fund. It was being reallocated to. Oh, we couldn't spend it on this purpose? I thought it was being reallocated to the general fund based on the, I'll have to look up the memo again. So it's just staying in that fund. Okay. 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 Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think most people know I'm a firm believer in what the chief just said is what we years ago started was every year ordering 4 to 6 cruisers, knowing that the wear and tear, the potential of a new cruiser being taken out in an accident-related incident, the fact that we need and will need the cruisers to be replaced on a regular basis, it made sense. And we did so for many years, and then more recently, we stopped doing that. And I'm not sure why. I know times have been tough, but this is, to me, everyday cost of operation is keeping the police department with cruisers that are available but also safe, up to date, and can do their duty. I will not vote for taking a dime from stabilization for everyday costs. And that is wrong. For all the arguments we've had on stabilization, this is what we're not supposed to do with stabilization. Thank you.
Linda?
Thank you. And on that point, I wholeheartedly agree with the Councilor McGivern. And what I would like to do is offer an amendment to this that.
Can't amend it. Yeah.
So then how can we go about taking it from free cash instead of stable? That's what I asked you before the meeting.
The mayor has to.
You have to file an order. It all comes to the mayor. The mayor can say no, but you can file an order to say, can you take 240 from free cash or whatever number you want. 240 gets you 6 cars, correct?
Correct.
Because the last one that came in from the account was 119 for 3 cars.
Right, and that number came up with, that was the best we were going to get out of there.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
So,
all right, so that's my position. I would be comfortable in supporting the purchase of the cars out of free cash.
Councilor, if I may, I will talk to the mayor tomorrow. You know, I realize it has to go through the process. But if it's the wishes of the body that we could obtain the 240 out of free cash.
I can only speak for myself and defer to the rest of my colleagues on this committee. But if it was the wish of the committee, I would support taking it out of committee tomorrow if it came forward to us out of free cash.
I don't think I can physically do it for tomorrow at this rate, but to change the funding source, I don't know.
The mayor could file it.
They can file,
and we could suspend rules to pull it out of committee.
They could file a late file.
Okay.
We could suspend the rules, take up the late file, and address it tomorrow night.
It could be done.
Keep in mind, there's only $1.3 million left in the free cash.
That's a separate issue.
It's a huge issue.
So hold on. Let's Dave.
That one we didn't know was coming.
Go to Dave, and then Jim, and then Peter.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Chief and Sergeant Patrolman. Obviously, we also want to pay for this. We just don't want to do it. Well, I don't want to do it out of stabilization myself, and I've already voted against that twice, I think. So, Chief, this is just a slightly off topic, but may I ask him a question, Mr. Chair? Okay. Can you just so I just want to take a couple of notes. Just a number of patrolmen, number of superior officers, and the number of retirees that you, to date, anticipate coming as of June 30th, and then the number of recruits you have ready to come on to replace the retirees. If you know, Chief, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Counselor, I'd be ballparking that. I don't have those exact numbers in front of me. Generally, we're funded for 90. I think it's, is it 27 superior officers? I know we have, I'm going to pull this one out of the air because I don't have their names in front of me. I believe we have 4 or 5 retirements anyways coming up. We're in the process of looking to hire. We have currently 1 reserve. I am trying to hire, it was 18, the numbers dwindled to 16 reserves, and at the same time, as soon as I know what our numbers are for hiring, I'll look to backfill those. But when I ask civil service for a number, sometimes it takes them time to provide me a number off a list. People got to come in and sign the list. List has got to go back to civil service. It's got to get certified. It all takes time.
All set. All right, so Jimmy and then Peter.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it's December now, so we're halfway through the fiscal year. And what I was just talking about before, we only have about $1.3 million left in free cash. That's not a very healthy situation. However, what is a healthy situation is we have about $14 million in the stabilization account. I spoke to Bellamy earlier. There's not really a way we can gauge exactly how much we get for interest. That was one of the questions that I had. But even at 2%, you know, we're making substantial amounts of money on interest alone, and that wouldn't be touching the principal. As I quoted an officer in the last presentation, one of the things that this person had said is, God forbid anything happened, it would be because of either the radios or the vehicles. And these vehicles are running 24/7. They're going, you know, thousands of miles. These vehicles are what are patrolling, or what safely bring these men and women around. I'm going to support this. Certainly don't like spending money out of the stabilization, but you know, Bellamy should take it out of the interest, right, Bellamy? Yeah, there you go. All right, thank you.
Peter?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also in support of this. I mean, we need the vehicles for public safety, and I really think if we keep on delaying this, the longer the chief already said, it's going to be 6 to 8 months before we get these cruisers on the road. If my colleagues state tomorrow night somehow we get the money through free cash, that's okay. But as of now, I think using that as stabilization money right now is a sensible thing to do to get these vehicles ordered and on the roads. Public safety is number one. You know, we can't keep on putting this off. We were getting vehicles here every year, every 2 years, replacing vehicles, and we haven't done it in a while. And when the officers go out there, they have to have the equipment, the tools, you know, to get the job done. You know, if God forbid something happens to a vehicle, you know, breaks down while they're going to an emergency scene, it's just it's not necessary if we have the money to utilize it. So I am very much in support of this. If my colleagues feel that tomorrow night they want to work around it and do it out of free cash, whatever way we do it, this has already been, what, delayed about 6 months? We try to use that money from the sale of the, you know, we couldn't do it. There's no need to delay anymore. I really firmly believe that we need to do this and do this as soon as possible.
Anyone else? Joe?
2 weeks ago, we voted for more than this amount to pay for a one-time expense of the Essex Hotel falling on the business. That's the money that should have came out of stabilization. On our item, one of our agenda's items this tomorrow night, this coming Tuesday, is more money for settling a lawsuit out of free cash. We have to be smart and where the money comes from and how we spend it. Delaying this for 4 months, we know this for 2 years now, what's been going on with the cruisers. We've had argument after argument after argument. This is not a stabilization use. For the future of the city, we need to get the mayor to start taking it from the right accounts.
Chief, for the bond, it says police cars 180. So for the $21 million bond?
Yeah, that was a figure that was thrown into the $21 million bond. Obviously, if we can get cars, we can pull that out.
Well, no, I know, but so 119 I know is because that's what was in the account. 180 for the police cars, and now 240.
Right.
The numbers keep floating around. So what did 180 get us?
That got us five cars. That wasn't a number that was another number I asked for. That was a number this is what we'll get put in there.
Okay, so I guess, because you and I have been talking about this, I think for like 2 years now, trying to get you cars, and we've been battering it around. Is there any way, and once again it's all up to everyone else, could we ask the mayor, could we take 140, I'm making up numbers now, 140 from stabilization, 100 from free cash to give you the 240 for 6 cars? You say, well, what is the difference? It's you're trying to come up with some way. If you take it all from free cash and we get hit with the storms that we think we are, does that drain it out and some expenditures come up and the free cash is gone, we're going to stabilization anyways? You're just trying to come up with a plan. I did talk with Cinder from Bond Council as to how to start working with stabilization, because these requests are repetitive now as to hitting stabilization. That's not good. It doesn't look good for our credit rating. It isn't good. No, it's not good at all. As I explained to her, isn't it better to have a plan in place to address uses of stabilization, if at all? And her response was, absolutely. So our rating right now, S&P, is A+. It's good. Her response is, it's not great. Every other community around us is better. So that is a factor to consider. So what I'm trying to get at, Chief, is can we all come to a consensus to try and get you some cars? And if we have to use stabilization, do we not have to use all of it the way, the 240? Can we devise some type of plan?
Certainly.
That's all.
And so I suppose the simplest thing would be split it down the middle. And, I can certainly file whatever's needed with the mayor's office tomorrow morning, 120 out of free cash, 120 out of the stabilization. And then I don't know if it's the will of the body to agree to that or not.
It gives options. I guess that's the best answer. Go ahead, Linda.
I would just say I'm not going to support money coming out of stabilization for operational expenses, because we've been beating on this for as long as I've been on the city council. But if you want them to write it this way, that way, and the other way, I mean, you might get your 8 or 10 or whatever it is you need, but we should use the free cash, and then we got to live within the budget. I don't think it's right that you never got your vehicles, but it is correct that we need to live within the budget. And the only way we're going to start doing that is to say no to breaking the piggy bank for operational costs. That's my opinion. So,
and I appreciate that, and I realize we have difference of opinions, and that's okay.
That's why we debate.
Yeah, that's fine. That's the whole process here. My officers desperately need cars. We all in agreement on that. It's just a matter of what it takes to get this done, and I may be okay with spending $240 out of this free cash. I can certainly ask the mayor for that.
I'd recommend you bring it in, personally.
And then see if we can go forward from there.
I mean...
I realize there are some councils that will support taking it out of the stabilization fund, but it seems to me, in the consensus I get, it's easier for the city council as a whole to say, no, we have to pay this out of free cash.
Would it, for tomorrow, to have the chief go back, would you want him to say the full 240 from free cash, or option 2, split rate, like he said, 120 and 120? And then at least way we can discuss it tomorrow, and there's an option for everyone. Is that all right? No?
Yeah.
Because he has to go back to the mayor and offer up.
Make sure we have enough money for snow removal. And
I leave that to the discretion of the chief, but what, in my view, is likely to happen is he'll get the less out of free cash and nothing out of stabilization.
But that's all debate. But I'm
a fair shot to take, I guess. If that's.
Dave, do you have any suggestions?
I'm just
yes.
speculating.
I'm sorry. I apologize, Linda.
I'm sorry.
I interrupted you. I apologize.
I'm sorry. No, I'm good.
Well, Mr. Chair, why does it have to be all or nothing?
But that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying all or nothing.
So my strong suggestion would be for the chief to speak with the mayor Mr. Mayor, what can you afford at this point to take out of free cash and have the appropriate legislation be filed before us? And I think we're going to be pretty much in support of it, whether it's 2 cars or 3. I mean, it's better than nothing, Chief. I mean, and that's a half-baked way to sort of plan, but at least that gets us going in the right direction. My suggestion. Thank you.
So Chief, unless there's any, I'd say go back to the mayor. One option would be, say, you know, could you file an order for the 240 from free cash? Could you file the other way that you said it, which was the split rate for each account, and have them all as separate orders? So don't have them say 120 and 120 from stabilization and free cash as one order. Separate them out. So if the council doesn't want anything from stabilization, they vote no on it.
So we're really talking about 3 orders.
3 orders. That's how I'd see it.
Okay, 1 all free cash, 1
half free cash,
1 half stabilization. Yeah. And what's the third?
Well, that's the third.
Oh, okay. Okay. I got it. Yep. Yeah, okay. Little slow. I got it.
It's a Monday.
Now, can I
Sure.
Can we put that one order together? Half stabilization.
No. I want 3 separate orders. If you do one order, all in one order, it's a vote yes or no, and if it dies, it dies. Whereas if you have 3 choices, one might pass, the other 2 might not. I'm just making stuff up here as to the votes.
Well, it looks like we're either going to get 6 or we're going to get 3 out of one and 3 out of the other, or just 3. And we need 6. That's the. It's kind of like we're stuck in the middle.
I'll explain all this to the other man. I'm just trying to help. You know, I understand the dilemma. And over here, is there a list?
Would you consider us going maybe 5 out of free cash and 1 out of stabilization, or mixing that number up, or what's your recommendation?
I think we just said it's the chief.
3 and 3. Okay.
Do you sound?
I just want to see if we can move this order our committee at least. I will support it tonight just to get it to the body tomorrow, and then I'm not sure if I'm going to support it taking money for stabilization, but I think I just want to move it out of here at least, and I would like to make a motion that we adopt the order with the 240.
Okay, so understand what you can do is motion to approve, motion to deny, or motion to send without a recommendation. We've done that before, but it's up. You said motion to approve, seconded.
Yes.
Any other debate? Any other questions, Peter?
Yeah, just to make it clear that I've been confused with it. You need 6 police cars. You're saying that, you know, maybe you only get 3, but whatever order you come up with, you're going to get 6, right?
No. What we're talking is I file 3 late orders.
Right.
One asks for 6 cars out of the stabilization. The second order asks for 3 cars out of the stabilization, and the third order asks for 3 cars out of free cash. So you've got 3 decisions to make. You're going to pay for it all out of free cash, and half out of free cash, and half out of the stabilization. Those are your choices.
Oh, okay. I thought the choices were all out of free cash, all out of stabilization, or you break it up, 120, 120. That's what I thought it was.
Because you already have that one right before us.
Right.
All out of stabilization.
Right. But I mean, either way, you need 6 cars. And so you're saying that they may not get the 6.
He would like 6 cars.
He would like 6 cars, so he might break it down to 3, depending on how the vote goes with the rest of the council. I mean, I like the option. I think that's a good option to do, you know, that. But I thought the option was the 120 out of free cash and 120 on that one item out of stabilization. That way you get the 6 cars. Yep. That's what I feel comfortable with.
You have the ability to get to the 6 cars.
Right.
But if stabilization is not voted on, it's voted down, and free cash was approved, you'd have 3 cars or you'd have 6
Well, my biggest fear is none of them going through and they don't get any cars.
That's what currently is on the table now,
right,
based on what we're hearing.
I mean, either the other ones, the council still might not vote for either one of those options, right? The rest of the board. Okay.
Linda, you want to say something?
I just wanted to note that if you do the split, if you decide you want to take that approach, you would, not that I'm warm to it, but if you want to do it, you would have to have 2 separate orders, because currently...
3, actually.
3. Right, in addition to the one that's in front of us, because currently this one is 240.
Right.
And we can't change the number. So you would still need 3 different orders, not just 2.
Correct.
That's why
Right.
this is all complicated, simply because with regards to the orders that come to us, we can't amend it to change the number.
Right.
The number is the number before us. That's why I'm giving you the options. If they don't like one, at least we have something else to try and work with.
Counselor, and I appreciate you working with me on this, in the guidance and suggestions on how to get this done. I absolutely appreciate that. But I really need 6. It's not that I would like 6, but I will get the orders filed tomorrow, and then we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I'll call the mayor too and figure something out. So the motion currently is to approve. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
4-1. So yeas are Jimmy,
Yes.
Diestato,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Todd, yes, and Linda, no. That's just to get it out to the committee. Is that it? All right. So that's it,
Counselors,
Chief.
thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Be safe.
All right, we'll go right back to the top. Make a motion to take item number 1 off the table. All those in
Second.
favor? All
Aye.
those opposed? Order that the representative of DPW and Park Rec come before Finance to provide a detailed breakdown of the bonding package. The field representatives should provide a breakdown location costs. So this is the ongoing one. With that, we should take up item number 2, take them as a package.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
Aye.
Order that the Finance Committee invite former DPW Superintendent Boo Filkway to the meeting to discuss and get answers to the bond package that we were talking about, which is all the fields, Roberts, McKenzie, and the tennis courts. And we'll go from there, move from the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So we have item 1 and 2 up before us. Is Bill coming? Bill is not. Was Bill invited and told? The country. Okay. All right, so I guess we had questions for Bill specifically as to who made the determination on the changes to the bond, which then forced money from one project to the other. Did he write a letter, a memo, anything?
No, but I talked with Bill
Okay.
and I talked with the mayor about that question.
Okay.
And what had happened was there was the issue with the media and whether or not it should change from the crumb rubber to the coated sand. The consensus was that the coated sand is a better product and also safer for the users of the field. DPW made a recommendation to the mayor to make that change, and he authorized the change.
So Bill made the recommendation.
Ultimately, yes.
And was that, to you, Terry, was that communicated to you about was that one of your recommendations to Bill and then Bill took it, or how did it work?
The Parks Commission recommended that we go to the sand as a safer option if that was available. And I believe there was an additional expense, but as far as we were concerned, it was a safety issue in getting quality product where we were not going to be concerned about health issues. And then from that point, we were not part of the final approval process. It was my understanding that Bill, with the advice of the consulting company that was helping with the project, made a recommendation to the mayor that this is something we should consider doing. There's going to be additional cost. I did not realize that the additional cost was also going to eliminate some of these other projects. That I did not know.
That was never communicated to you?
No. I mean, as we went through, because I was part of that advisory committee, as we went through it, and we were still talking, we were doing tennis courts, we were still doing,
so
we eliminated some of the projects at McKenzie to make sure we had all the other things done. But then when it actually came, and the final recommendation obviously eliminated tennis courts, which, you know, I found out about it from Melanie at the high school saying that they're not doing that. I said, what do you mean you're not doing it? Yeah, we did. We were going to have that. And she said, well, it's not in the money this year. He's going to put another bond in, so.
Interesting. I did speak with Cinder from the bond council, and I did, yeah, okay, Dave. And I did ask her specifically to look at this bond, because we'll remember we filed the bond for McKenzie, Roberts, Crozier, and then we came back in December and amended that bond to specifically talk about Jones Point. And I said, you know, how did we draft it? Was it reviewed? And she was able to find it and pull it up, and she said, based on her reading of it, and she's not sure if the attorneys looked at it to make sure the language was done, but she said it was drafted in a fashion that was vague enough to say Jones Point was added in as part of the overall project, but if you ultimately took money from it, you could apply it to others. It didn't single out. So although we debated it in council that we were specifically trying to allocate X amount towards Jones Point, the overall writing of the bond encompassed the entire project to then say, here's your pool of money. You're doing here, 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 and here. Oh, wait, this project's too much. You can allocate money to the rest. And that's we've seen that before with the high school. So she believes that the bond is in compliance to do that. I don't like it because we specifically debated it in here that Jones Point was a total number. So now what we're learning is whatever happens after it comes out of our hands, you guys may or may not see it, you may or may not recommend something, and ultimately someone has the final say, and projects weren't done. What was pitched to the public was Crozier Field tennis courts, a parking area down there, Roberts Field baseball field, a brand new bathroom / meeting house where that decayed brick building is, Roberts Field, the tennis court there, and Jones Point. No Jones Point, no Crozier, no parking, no tennis courts at Roberts Field, and we're probably going to get a sandy can for a house where the brick house is now. It's $180,000. That's not going to get us much. So, wow, 5 things in a bond that was promised to the public that we offered up to our taxpayers, and we didn't get it. Joe?
I think the chairman summed it up, but I'd like to focus on the change in Roberts Field for a minute. I was on the original advisory committee that put Roberts Field there, and although because of 30B, which I'm not a big fan of when these things happen, we did not get the field turf product that we wanted, which had a membrane and I'm sure rubber pellets that were safe, because it was the original company that brought this and changed, I believe, the entire nation and probably beyond the entire nation way of looking at what we used to call astroturf. Most of us know astroturf was not safe for the athletes, high school, college, whatever level. Injuries were more prone. It was nice, but it just wasn't safe. Field turf is safe because of the vertical drain. And if we got the original product, we would have had the membrane, meaning less of those rubber pellets would come up. Terry Murphy brought to my attention the studies out there about the potential of some cancer-causing elements in rubber pellets. Not all rubber pellets. Do we know that the rubber pellets we had carcinogenic part of their makeup and could cause cancer? Who was the consensus, Mike, that made this decision? You said consensus? I know you weren't here, but
switching from the crumb rubber
to the sand.
To the sand. I think the Parks and Rec, that board made the recommendation. Also, DPW felt that it would be a better product.
Based on?
In the end. Based on the sporting fields industry and conversations with the consultant, BSC. I also know at the time...
Isn't the consultant the developer who was doing the project?
No.
This is a separate consultant?
Correct. It's
and how was that consultant paid for?
They're paid for, they have a contract with the city to do the design and some construction observation, construction administration.
Of Roberts Field?
Of Roberts, McKinsey, they did the design of the tennis courts. They were involved in the overall project from the beginning.
Design
up
only.
until now.
They have nothing to do with the actual implementation of the new product?
No. Do you mean like the construction aspect?
Yes.
No, they're design engineers working for the city, not contractors.
And they based this on studies?
They based it on studies. There was also talk a year plus ago about the federal government potentially banning crumb rubber from being used for field turf systems.
Talk. Over a year ago.
Correct.
Based on a handful of studies that dealt with women's soccer and goalies.
Correct.
And that's the consensus.
Yep.
Based on just that. Talk.
Well, based on the fact that I think there were 11 or 12 high school or college young ladies that played soccer on chrome rubber that all had cancer within a significant time period of that. And I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not going. I'm not a doctor.
Why?
But the
why
only study,
not examine the pellets that are in the field or were in the field and see if they were harmful? Why not test them?
All the crumb rubber.
No, they come from different. They come from different parts of the industry. Some are made up of different types of recyclable materials. Some are significantly problems. Some are not. And why not go after the company that outbid Field Turf? And if they did put an inferior product in Roberts Field, which we did not want, would not want, I know Terry would agree with that from the beginning, to harm any of our youth or any of our potential athletes on these fields, go after them. We just took it for granted that it's a problem, got rid of it, and put sand in. Vertical drain with sand. Will the sand freeze quicker than the pellets? Yes, that's proven. If it freezes quicker, football, soccer, fall sports, when the cold weather comes in with significant rain, that field becomes frozen. And we have what we had. AstroTurf, grass, concrete, dirt, which is worse than AstroTurf. Where's the injuries that we're talking about for the athletes that play on the rock solid frozen turf?
First of all, what we were told, that's not true.
By who?
By the people that were at those meetings.
Well,
this sand compound is similar to the chrome rubber in terms of its capacity to provide a playing surface, to be safe in terms of concussions and other aspects. And you know, I know they visited a couple of places that out in New Jersey, I believe, that do have it, and the response has been positive. And the response, from what I heard, with one complaint, was that the surface was a decent surface to be playing on. So we have had one complaint.
And there is a drainage system associated with the field.
What?
There's
yes, there is. Yes, there is. But if you don't get the vertical drain, that's when it becomes the frozen tundra. It's actually a better drain than if we had natural turf, because it won't freeze as quick. At least the pellets won't. The people that told us that the sand is just as effective were the construction people that were putting it in, the people that we bought the product from. Of course they're going to tell us that.
Well, I'm going by the reports from the people that have used the product.
Who's that?
I mean, now I would need Bill, because I know he's the one that went out to
Well, that's why we asked for Bill to be here this evening, I think.
Well,
it would be other schools, other facilities that have the field.
I'd really like an answer as to why we didn't do a study on the actual rubber pellets that were in the field. I think the chairman said the rest. You know, this was a significant change. If it was needed to be done, I have no problem. but I don't think the right steps were taken to make the change and make that decision without having all the educated answers that we needed after investing the amount of money we did in this field and for the reasons we invested the money in this field.
Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate the Chairman's remarks and Councilor McGivern's remarks. Don't want to point fingers at anybody, but I'm just going to say a couple of things that I think are factual. One is, which I didn't know until just now, that language in a bond that says specifically, Councilor Leahy filed the order for Jones Point tennis courts, but somehow that language is vague enough to morph into something else other than tennis courts. Now that is really some lawyering. I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that for a second. And somebody's got to read that bond language, whether it's the department head or commissioners who are not paid, part-time, city councilors who are paid, but we're all part-time. A tennis court is not anything but a tennis court. Jones Point is not Roberts Field. I mean, come on. That's beyond chutzpah. Really unfair to this body. Truly a disappointment to this body and to anyone with any semblance of common sense. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Second of all, and you two were there and you know it, I got invited to, we had a liaison from the city council. I got invited to one meeting. I attended said meeting, January 2015. I was never invited to another meeting. There was never any communication between that ad hoc committee, who apparently had no power. Apparently you had zero power. But there was never any communication between that body and this body that approved the bond. This is incredible. I mean, you never got feedback from me. You never saw me in another meeting. I was never invited. Sent emails. No, never, nothing. So the lesson points is, do we have to get our own lawyer to review bonds to say, when they say Jones Point tennis court, that they can morph into something else? Do we need that? Do we have to have a separate opinion from our law department to say this bond says what we think we voted on? That is just beyond stunning. What a takeaway. That language is vague enough. How is that vague? It's not vague. That's nonsense. That's somebody playing games. And then my last question, is Mr. Fuqua on our payroll in any form or fashion? Does he, to this point in receive a penny from the city of Holyoke? And if so, do we have orders in, Mr. Chairman, as to that effect?
Well, they did respond, and he is getting paid under a contract up to $10,000, of which Mike calls him for information or support on something. There's a rate that gets charged up with a max of $10,000 for the year. Did I say that correctly?
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, just some costs that I guess I kind of missed here. The cost for the field, if we did it with the pellets, the way we were hoping it would be done, the cost was... The follow-up will be to the cost as we did with the dirt. What's the difference?
So can provide an updated project cost summary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if we go about halfway down the page to the general construction area, there's the Roberts turf and field construction contract base bid of $1,072,250. That included the base bid, which was the crumb rubber. That $1 million figure also includes some work on the track, some drainage work, other work of the project. Alternative number one was a turf system with coated sand infill.
So 375 extra.
375 extra to remove the turf and crumb rubber and replace it with a different type of turf, a shock absorbent pad, and the sand infill.
So let me just. High school tennis courts, 175. Jones Point tennis courts, 285. We're kind of losing your money for that change. My second question is the cost of timing. You brought it up that due to the schedule being tough to get the field done in a certain time period, that also added to the cost?
There is some of that. The original discussion regarding the tennis courts was to replace them with an asphalt tennis court for Jones Point and Crozier. The asphalt system is prone to cracking, and you wind up with the courts. It would be a replacement of the courts that you have there now. So that was changed to a post-tension concrete tennis court system, which is a more robust surface for the tennis courts. You wouldn't have the same cracking. They would last a lot longer, but there is an escalation in price associated with that. That's what was designed, and that's what went out to bid, was post-tension tennis courts for Jones Point, Crozier, and then the tennis courts at the high school remained asphalt.
So my question though is, for doing Mackenzie and Roberts over, there was an escalation of costs. Is that in here?
No, that's not shown because this is the project as it is right now. This is all of the contracts that we currently have. This does include a new field house, the estimate for the new field house, but it does not include the tennis courts.
So,
and because when the tennis courts went out to bid and the prices came back higher, there wasn't room within this existing budget to fund the construction of those tennis courts. There was talk about just advancing the high school tennis courts, which were the asphalt tennis courts. That was the lowest cost of the three tennis courts. But ultimately, the decision was made to remove the tennis courts from the project and have them put on the $21 million bond as a standalone project. Again, it was a bill in the mirror.
Okay. So that we know, that's been made clear over the last 3 meetings on this. My question, again, is we did Mackenzie and Roberts in its current time frame. The cost of doing it in this time frame and not spreading it out over a longer period of time. The answer in one of the meetings was, by doing it in a short time frame, prior to football season, it escalated the cost. What was the escalated cost? Where's that number? What was that number? 100,000, 200,000?
I guess what we could compare would be cost estimates that were generated by BSC, the city's consultant for this, to the actual construction price, the actual bid price.
That's the number I want.
Okay.
I want that number.
Okay, I'll have to do some more research to get that number for you.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Linda.
I just want to make a comment that, just to speak to some of Councilor Bartley's earlier points, the takeaway for me is that in the future, I won't be voting to amend a bond. I will be voting for a new bond for the stated purpose of the bond. That's my takeaway. Thank you.
Joe?
What is the status of the field house demolition?
We're currently out to bid for asbestos abatement in the existing field house. Once that is complete, then we can advance the demolition. The plan is to have an outfit that's currently working with the city ROCA. They've done other work in the city in the past. They've looked at this field house and they feel that they can demolish the field house once it's abated. And then the cost for ROCA is being paid for through other city funds, so it wouldn't be hitting this project.
Will the field house be coming down between now and spring?
Yeah, I expect the abatement to occur in January, so then the demolition can be in February, March, and April. We're working with BSC to advance the design of the replacement field house, the new field house. They're working with Tim Murphy Architects to come up with a masonry structure for that. I think we're about a month away from having a final design that we can go out to bid.
Tell Tim you want gutters.
The gutters aren't part of it. We talked about gutters and.
Tell Tim you want gutters. He'll know who told you.
Okay. I will.
Thank you.
All right. So any other questions or?
Do you want to keep this on the table till you get that answer that you're waiting for?
Yeah, we'll make a motion to table it, one, to see if Bill wants to show up. I know he's on vacation, so we'll take that into consideration. So to have Bill come in, and then two, get that information on the difference between the costs that I'm looking for. So I'll make a motion to table it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Since you're here, make a motion to take item number 4 out of order. All in favor? All opposed? Item 4 is a communication from Terry Shepard, Park and Rec Director, and Mike McManus, DPW, regarding Pouliot Pool. Move it from the table. All in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? All right, this one, we all did get a communication. We're receiving a grant for $400,000. But then they're going to need to do bonding in order to cover the rest of the pool. You guys want to explain the grant and what's going on?
I can. It's called a park grant through the Executive Office of Energy and Environment. It's a $400,000 reimbursable grant for the demolition and reconstruction of Pouliot Pool.
So demo and reconstruction?
Initially it was demo.
So part of the overall Roberts Field project, the city had BSC do an assessment of Pouliot Pool to assess its current condition and come up with a set of recommendations on how to move forward. And they looked at rehabilitation of the existing structure. And they also looked at demolition of the pool and replacement of the pool. And from that, the recommendation to demolish and replace was the most cost-effective in the long run, and that cost was taken and put into the $21 million bond for the $1.5 million pool project. Since that was put into the bond, Parks and Rec applied for the park grant, and we were awarded the grant with the condition that the city approve funding of the project by the end of the calendar year.
Correct.
So we asked the mayor if we'd be able to pull that out of the bond and submit it as its own package. And that, along with the letter that you received, is why we're here tonight. So in order to get the $400,000 grant, we need to build the pool.
So in the $21 million bond, it says new swimming pool, 1.5 million?
Correct.
Okay, so you got a grant for 400,000. And what will the bond be for? Because we don't have it, it'll be on tomorrow's agenda.
Right, so the bond would be for $1.5 million. It would be for demolition and construction of a new pool. And then I think once it's all said and done, the city would be reimbursed $400,000.
Oh, correct.
It will not have a diving component though, so it won't be the same thing that has been there. It'll be a lap pool only.
Oh.
Yeah.
In order to come within the 1.5 million, and there are some requirements if we were having the diving pool and we were having other areas that we would have to do construction on the bathhouse itself, and to try to stay within the 1.5 million so that in fact we weren't coming back and saying this isn't going to cover it.
Right. So
after all the design, I think it's a six lane or 7 lane lap pool.
6 lane, 6 lane swimming pool. It does not include the diving portion. The diving portion would increase the surface area of the pool, and with the new regulations, if we were to construct the pool as it is right now, we would need a bathhouse that would have 6 restrooms and 6 showers for each gender. The current bathhouse has 4. And so if we replace the lap pool, we would be within that 4 bathrooms and showers requirement. Touching the bathhouse would be a significant cost. As it is right now, the lap pool, the new lap pool, would be approximately $1.25 million. To redo a diving pool would be another $800,000, and that doesn't include any work on the bathhouse.
So we're going to do 1.2 for the lap pool, and then there is money for the pool house?
Well, we would need to demolish the diving pool because it's an L-shaped pool. So the lap pool would go within the existing footprint of the current lap pool. We would demolish the diving pool. We would demolish the kiddie pool, and we could put in a water feature in place of the kiddie pool. Yeah. Yes. There's also security improvements that would need to be done to the site, cameras, new fencing.
So there are going to be cameras now?
Yes.
And it's going to be tied to the police department, or where?
Yeah. Yes.
New fencing?
New fencing.
Okay, you had questions on security?
Not only security, but timetable. If we approve this tomorrow, by when this will be open? I mean, you have to demolish the old pool. I mean,
well, first we need a design.
Okay.
So if you approve it tomorrow, we could solicit engineering services for design. We could go out to design. That would be a 2 to 3 month long process, depending on where we'd want to go, whether or not we'd want to include other public participation in the design to try to get support for what finally gets constructed, go out to bid, and then into construction. I really don't see this being open next year.
It's already closed now, so.
Yeah, it is. Let me ask another question. If we build a completely new swimming pool in another location, it will be the same cost or it will be less? Do you have any idea? I mean, let's say, for example, we don't go where we are now. We go in another location and build something new, a vacant lot. It will be, how much it will be? It should be less, right?
The pool itself would be less, but the support, the mechanical support, the bathhouse, we would need to build out that facility at a new location. So I think ultimately the construction cost would be more if we went somewhere else.
And my question to that deal would be, if we don't use this site, what do we do with the current pool? We have to fill it in, we have to do something, so that's a cost.
All right, I hear you.
Any other questions, Peter?
Thanks, Mike. And this, the pool, you said that the bathhouse is going to be taken down and you build a new one, or is it reconstruct? You're just going to renovate it?
Correct, renovations to the existing bathhouse.
Okay, and you said there'd be some changes with the pool. There'd be no kiddie pool or no, like
right,
some kind of a...
Correct, we'd get rid of the kiddie pool and put in a spray park type pool. And we would get rid of the deep diving. I think the current diving goes to, is it 8 feet or 12?
12 feet.
12 feet.
And you said that also, you know, the bond would have to be approved in order to get the $400,000 by the end of the year. So that's like tomorrow night till last night. It's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it wasn't awarded to the city until I think it was December 8th. December 8th. So, we didn't know about it, and we didn't sit on it.
Correct.
To force this issue, the state's forcing it on us.
And more than likely, the time and it'd take the other pool down, it would probably not be ready for next summer. Unless the pool would not be ready.
Correct, yeah.
I mean, with the timing and everything, just the construction, the tearing it down and building it up and everything, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
When did we apply for the grant?
June this year.
Other questions? All right, so what we have before us is just a communication regarding pool and what happened, which we just discussed. So make a motion that the communication has been complied with. Second. All those in favor? All those opposed? And then tomorrow, just to let you know, is there will be an order for the bond in order to then deal with what we discussed. Because we can't talk about anything unless we have a communication, which we did have. Okay? All right.
So we'll have to pull at council, or?
No, the communication's been complied with. In essence, I can talk about the communication, and then when the bond comes up, I mean, it's part of the communication. What?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's always the hard question. I mean, there might be a question that comes up regarding it for members who just couldn't make it tonight. I mean, it's almost the holidays, so schedules are tough for them. You know, maybe a question comes up we didn't ask, and if we don't have the answer to it, could they then ask for it to be sent back to committee until we get answers? So if we have such a time crunch, I would highly advise people come in for tomorrow. With you being here, as I told the chief, these type of things, I'll ask for a suspension of the rules to allow you guys to come up so you're not sitting here all night. So, I mean, I can't tell you, yes, be here, and then we don't call you and you're mad at me. So,
no swimming for you.
Yeah, no swimming for me. But thank you very much. The next one, we'll take it out of order, is item number 7. Make a motion to move from the table in order that $100,000 be from free cash to special counsel. All those in favor? All opposed?
Thank you.
Sarah, how are you? Good.
Our favorite subject.
What are we studying tonight? No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7 on the agenda, and she's got to be with us tomorrow night.
It was on the second page, Joe. I was dealing with the first page.
He doesn't have his glasses.
Sorry I brought it up, Sarah.
I lost my glasses. I still haven't gotten to the eye doctor to get a new pair.
Okay.
But hi. All right, so tell us what's going on.
So I'm requesting $100,000 from free cash to our outside counsel account. We had originally asked for $200,000 in our budget. It was actually decreased to $100,000 by the mayor, and then it was further decreased to $75,000 by the council. Our average last year was, I think last year we ended up spending $205,000 on outside counsel fees. So looking at the cases that we have going now and the projecting our expenses for the rest of the year, I think $100,000 will cover it. That's not including anything that may come up between now and June. But I can't predict litigation. So at this point, my projections are $100,000 will cover our expenses for the rest of the year.
Linda?
So on the one that had some mediation involved back in the summer, is there any chance that that one is going to get resolved?
So the civil litigation was resolved.
Okay.
That was resolved. And the city didn't end up spending any money.
Okay. So when we look further down,
those are the
is that something else?
Yep, it's the workers' comp cases. So in that particular matter, there were two. There was a civil litigation and there was workers' comp.
So there's just that one arm remaining.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
How much is sorry?
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to ask.
How much are the attorneys charging per hour?
So Attorney Emma charges $175 per hour.
All right. So just how much was that?
$175 an hour.
That's 65.
Go ahead.
So once these cases are settled, is there a plan to utilize a local special counsel?
I can certainly keep that in mind. I wouldn't want to take anything away from Attorney Emma at this point because he's put so much effort into this. But as new things come up, absolutely, we'll assess our outside counsel.
Thank you.
Who is? Because someone, Hayes and Quinn, didn't they leave? They withdrew from us.
That was the Williams case.
Yeah.
And that was just finishing it up.
The last one, right?
If they're officially gone, they're finishing their last case or so.
Right.
Who is our new outside counsel?
That was so that was just contracted to them on a case-by-case basis. We don't have any counsel under retainer. In the past, we did have Sullivan, Hayes, and Quinn on retainer for the labor law, but I've taken on all the labor law in-house, so we haven't been paying that.
Okay, so if cases come up that you guys want outside counsel, how are you going to go about doing it?
Well, I mean, what I'd like to do is on a case-by-case basis. You want to pick someone who's specialized in the area or has some experience. So depending on what comes up, we would look to determine, who would be the appropriate counsel. If we're looking for another retainer agreement, we would go out to bid in accordance with the new procurement ordinance.
So we'll do an RFP for one, but for the other, finding the specialist, how are we going to do that if that case comes up? Yeah.
Under the procurement modification in the ordinance, we left flexibility for the legal department when it's a specialty case, case by case.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. How are you?
How do I determine a specialist?
Yeah, I mean, are you going to say, well, I know Diestato, he specializes in employment law, or even though I know Diestato, Jim does employment law, what's better for the city, the rate or expertise, or I mean, how
So, I mean, what I would, honestly, if I had to do it tomorrow, I would probably put out a question to my solicitor listserv and see what other communities use, because I'd want someone who has experience in that area, and then it would certainly come down to price. That's very important.
Yeah.
Sarah, I take it Chuck Emma in June and July is the same as Charles Emma in August, September, and October?
Yes.
Is that one attorney, or is that the firm?
That's one attorney.
Okay. And does Attorney Emma specialize in certain things, or just?
The federal civil rights litigation. He's been handling those primarily. He has been the workers' comp cases. We brought him on because he was at least familiar with the area, because we had consulted him on a couple issues concerning those.
Okay. And on the civil rights, has he been there from the beginning on all of them?
Yep, the civil rights cases, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
No other questions? The motion was to approve. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Then the last one is the bond itself. Where'd that one? Order. Item number 3, make a motion to move from the table. So moved. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? This is the $21,706,000 bond, which we now have dealt with other matters outside of it. Pouliot Pool, police cars, what have you, radio towers. I guess the question would be is, do we officially say motion to deny it because we have to redo everything, in the sense of, because we're taking stuff, you can't approve it now because we're officially
Right.
taking stuff out of it. Which I did talk with the mayor on Friday, and said we can come up with some suggestions. So we could make a motion to deny it, but then say with regards to all the line items, this is what we kind of talked about, and these were important, these weren't important, high priority versus that. Or do we just table it and then come up with that list and then ultimately deal with it then? I mean, we can, either way.
I don't think we have the list right now, do we?
Well,
in a concrete way?
No. So what I mean is I'd have to type it up for all the notes I've taken for
review.
Yeah,
if,
so that
if that's
I'll
what
push
we
that
thought
into
we should
January
do.
because I have to type it all up for every line item. So it's whatever you guys want to do, guys and gals.
I'd like to.
Just deny it now, and then
put it together.
Then look at it.
Okay. All right. No, I was just making sure. Giving out.
I think it's cleaner.
Okay, so motion is to.
You said it.
Deny.
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so then we'll come up with that another way. With that, the motion is to, let's see, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is done, 6 is done, 7 is done. Motion is to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.